Alright, let's dive into something that's been making waves in the energy world recently. Here's the deal. India just hit a major milestone in its renewable energy journey, and it's got everyone talking. But here's the kicker. It's not just about the numbers. It's about what this shift means for the future of energy, not just in India but globally. So let's break it down. First off, India's renewable energy generation hit a record high in July, pushing coal's share in the power mix to its lowest point in a year. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a win for clean energy, right? But what makes this really interesting is the context. Renewable power jumped to 20% of India's mix, which is a 30% increase from last year. That's huge. But here's where it gets nuanced. Coal still dominates at 65.7%, down from 69% in June. So, yes, renewables are growing, but coal isn't going anywhere, at least not yet. Personally, I think this highlights a bigger trend in the energy transition. It's not a linear process. It's messy, it's complex, and it involves balancing immediate energy demands with long-term sustainability goals. India's situation is a perfect example of this. On one hand, solar and wind output exceeded 100 gigawatts for the first time, which is a massive achievement. But on the other hand, coal-fired power generation actually rose by 12.8% year-on-year. Why? Because of factors like El Nino reducing hydropower generation and driving up nighttime energy demand for cooling. What many people don't realize is that the energy transition isn't just about building more solar panels or wind turbines. It's about creating a resilient system that can handle fluctuations in supply and demand. For instance, the drop in hydropower due to El Nino created a power generation gap of nearly 18 billion kilowatt-hours, which had to be filled, and coal stepped in. This raises a deeper question. How do we build a system that can rely on renewables without falling back on fossil fuels during shortages? From my perspective, this is where energy storage and grid modernization come into play. If India, or any country for that matter, wants to truly reduce its reliance on coal, it needs to invest heavily in battery storage, smart grids, and other technologies that can balance the intermittency of renewables. What this really suggests is that the transition to clean energy isn't just about generation. It's about infrastructure, policy, and planning. Another detail I find fascinating is the timing of this shift. Most of the peak power demand in India is happening during the daytime, when solar energy is abundant. That's a huge advantage, but it also means that nighttime demand, when solar isn't available, is still a challenge. This is where coal comes back into the picture. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just an Indian problem. It's a global one. How do we ensure that renewable energy can meet demand 24/7? In my opinion, the answer lies in diversification. It's not just about solar and wind. It's about integrating other renewables like hydro, geothermal, and even nuclear into the mix. But here's the catch. Each of these sources comes with its own set of challenges. Hydropower, for example, is vulnerable to climate patterns like El Nino, as we've seen in India. So, while renewables are growing, they're not a silver bullet, at least not yet. What this really suggests is that the energy transition is going to be a long, bumpy road. It's not just about hitting record highs in renewable generation. It's about building a system that can sustain those highs while meeting demand reliably. And that's where the real work begins. India's progress is impressive, but it's also a reminder of how much more needs to be done. So here's my closing thought. As we celebrate these milestones in renewable energy, let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. The transition to clean energy isn't just about replacing coal with solar. It's about reimagining our entire energy system. And that's a challenge that requires innovation, investment, and most importantly, patience. What do you think? Is India on the right track? Or are there areas where it could do better? Let me know in the comments below.